lights here. All right, cool. First, should we go on?
Good morning. Good morning to all who are with us in the venue, and good morning and welcome to all of you joining us on the various virtual platforms. Thank you for the time that you've taken this morning to be with us as we celebrate the life of Dr. Doreen Dieketseng Monakise. My name is Ukanya Sosibo, and I'll be your program director alongside
Palisa Moloi.
We will briefly share with you what the program will look like for those who don't have the program, and then we'll continue. But first, some house rules.
Okay, so for those who are with us physically here, the bathrooms are just before you enter into the building. There's just a door that you go in. Then there's the men's and the women's bathrooms as well. Can you please all switch off our cell phones as they do disrupt the service? In terms of the speakers, can you please just keep it brief so that we can all have a chance to speak and we can continue the service as quickly as possible. Thank you so much.
So if we can please close the doors in the venue. Please make sure you're seated. This is a live recording, so please make sure that nothing is going to cause any noise. So if you can put everything down, cell phones off, before we proceed. We thank you. At this point, I would like to please call on Ziggy for our spiritual address and to open for us.
Molweni, Sanibonani, Dumelang bana beso, Ndi Macheloni. One or two vendors only. Goeiemôre almal. I wonder, will you be offended if I take this off?
No.
I feel so highly, highly honored to be asked to be a part of this service this morning. The Monakise family holds a very dear place in my heart, as well as my wife and family's hearts. We've only received love and goodwill and kindness and generosity that has been shown towards me. And I do want to say thank you to the whole Monakise family just for all that they've meant to us. This morning we are gathered here for the remembrance service And I was just wondering if we could maybe all just put our arms around ourselves like this. We're all in pain. We're all in sadness. And I see there are a number of little children here with us. I don't know this song in any other language but in English. And the words are very, very simple. So if I could maybe ask you to sing what we call the children's hymn. And all it just says is, Jesus loves me, this I know. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And now I know you've got much better voices than what I've got. So please, those who can sing, sing out loudly, will you? Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. That was wonderful. Thank you. We're all familiar with the words. It's a memorial service. We are familiar with it. We know what it's about. Yet I was reading in the dictionary what the dictionary had to say about a memorial service, and this is what it says. It's a service of remembrance. Then it's also a time to record in writing. Now you can already pick up, I've got an old English language dictionary by saying that they record in writing. Here we have modern technology with us today, and there are many people joining us, I suppose, all over the country. And so, yes, it's a time to remember in writing or by electronic means the momentous events which have been brought about in an individual's life, and that we want to recall it to ourselves again and again. And then the interesting comment was, it's a time to remember God's mighty deeds. So it gives a service like this even a greater weight and importance. And then if I can just leave you with this thought before we open in prayer. In the book of Malachi, now as you know, that's the last book in the Old Testament. And this is what it says. Then those who feared the Lord spoke often about the Lord to one another. Isn't that beautiful? That we should be speaking to each other much about the Lord. Now it says this, that while we do that, God is listening to your conversations. He's listening to my conversation. And not only is he listening, but he records it in a book of remembrance. That's serious. What crosses my lips? What crosses your lips? What crosses the lips of the politicians? God is listening to what we are saying, and he's remembering it. He's recording it. Goes on to say, he remembers it. It's because it's been written before the Lord, those who reverenced and worshipfully feared the Lord, and who thought often of his name. Now this is what it says. When the Lord hears that, he will say, you are mine. That's a very big compliment. He will say, you are mine, and on that day, now that's talking about the day of judgment, My dear brothers, my dear sisters, friends, boys and girls, every one of us, bar none, everyone will stand before God one day. And what does it say? When we've acknowledged the Lord, He's listened to our conversations, He's recorded it in His book of remembrance, then He will openly recognize and declare you and me to be His jewels. Banabeso. Let that sink in. That God considers you and me so highly that He will place us as His jewels in His crown. I just want to read a passage and then I'll be finished. I'm reading from the book of Matthew, Matthew chapter 5, and it starts out by saying, and Jesus, seeing the multitudes, had compassion on them. That's beautiful. That God Almighty looks upon you and upon me with compassion. So Jesus went up the mountain and then He got the crowd around Him and now He begins to speak. Blessed. Now it's become a term that we use quite lightly. Oh, I'm blessed. God bless you. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's wonderful. But do we understand what that word blessed means? It means you are fortunate. You are to be envied. People should be jealous over you and over me. So Jesus says, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Listen to this one. Blessed are those who mourn. We're in mourning. And He's saying we are blessed. Can't quite understand it. But He promises that at the times that we are in mourning, He will comfort us. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are those who are merciful. Haibo. Don't we need mercy today? All across the world there's anger, there's bitterness, there's hatred. No one wants to show mercy, but Jesus is saying to you and to me, blessed are those who are merciful, for they will obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers. Banabeso. We don't have many peacemakers in the world. We don't have many peacemakers in our own nation. Yet Jesus is saying, blessed are those who are peacemakers. They will be called the sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you, speak badly, they insult you, they swear at you. Jesus says, blessed are you when they revile you and say all kinds of evil things against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice. Can you imagine? Be glad, be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For those who persecuted the prophets went before you as well. Can I maybe just end with this? You are the light of the world. You're a city that is set on a hill that cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a candle, and we'll light the candle. Neither do people light a candle and put it under a basket. This one is here on a lampstand, and it gives light to all those who are in the house. Let your light, let my light, so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Amen. Amen. Come, let's bow our heads as we pray together. Baba wethu, osezulwini. Ngiyabonga namhlanje, bafowethu wami, dadewethu wami. Nkosi Jesu Kristu ngicela namhlanje. Won't you come and gather us here this morning, even as we put our arms around, as we sang that children's song, Jesus loves me, this I know. Lord, let that be the theme of this memorial service, that people will leave here saying, truly, God was here with us. Yes, our hearts were sad, but He comforted us. And my prayer is, O God, that you'd bless all the proceedings that would follow, and that, O God, right to the end of this service, and can we already think in terms of Wednesday when the funeral will take place, that the Umoya Oingwele will rest upon us. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Thank you so much, Ziggy, for that uplifting spiritual address. I would like to echo your words that today is to celebrate a life that brought so much light into this world. And I think Didi was God's living testament of his deeds. I would like to call upon Charlotte, my friend, sister. Charlotte, can you please come and address us with the eulogy? Sorry. Thank you. I would give my life for your love, and I know you'd do the same thing for me. My sister knows the significance of that song. My sister, I would give my life for your love and for your life. Where do I even start? Doreen Dieketseng Monakise. I'm out of words. I'm out of words. Here's another tissue. And I'm in awe of the caliber of the person you've become, my sister. I thought I knew fully who my sister was. I honestly thought I knew fully who my sister was until this past week. I've discovered about Dee the past week more than the past 33 years. In as much as I was crippled by grief, I was also overwhelmed by the amazing tributes pouring from all your friends, colleagues, and loved ones. My sister, I wish you were here to see this. I wish you were here to see this, Dee. I've really never seen anything like this in my life. I'm truly, truly, and deeply touched by the wave you've created and the fire you've left burning. And also how this giant tree that's fallen has sent ripples across the country. You see, friends, Dee was a spark. Dee was a spark that set alive everything she touched.
Yes.
She was a pin-sized serial entrepreneur. Tiny. But contagious. But contagious. She would not stop until she got what she wanted. You know, you are so persistent. Until Doreen, you don't give up. She would go for the kill. Allow me to share a short story about Dee. I went to visit Dee a few years ago. This is back when she was at varsity. I got to her room, and I remember she had a wall of fame. On the one side, she had Oprah Winfrey. On the other side, she had Richard Branson and a whole lot of other influential personnel. And right there in the center was Charlotte Monakise. Guys, I had tears in my eyes. To my sister, I was the world. Most of her friends and most people that knew Dee would know that Dee and I were friends. Dee and I were pillars. Dee and I said I saw you too. My brother passed on 4 years ago. Just the two of us. So, Dee was my friend. Dee was my rock. Dee was my pillar. Dee was my strength. We all know her in the family. Your mama knows Dee Nelly Chobolo. Very cheeky. She would put you in your place like, any minute. I look at my wall of fame now. My wall of fame. And undeniably and undoubtedly, without a doubt, Dee is at the center of my stage. If I could just become half the person that Dee was. This was meant to be a eulogy, but it's now a personal speech about Doreen's life. I don't want to be long, because I'd like to give the space to her friends and colleagues and everybody else. But I just want to thank you for choosing me, my sister. Thank you for the ride, and boy, was it a ride. The sun did shine, and now has set. The drums did beat, and now are silenced, and you have sailed on. And I'd like to end by a short poem by Kirsten White. It's called The Chaos of the Stars. And I'd choose you. In 100 lifetimes, in 100 worlds, in any version of reality, I would find you, Dee, and I'll choose you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte, for sharing with us the friendship and love that you shared with your sister. I held on to the words where you said Doreen was a spark. And Doreen was indeed a spark on this earth, in the physical. And that's the one thing that's given me courage, is that stars are always there whether you see them or not. So may your fire continue to burn, Doreen. As we move on, I would like to read this quote as we call on PT Monakise to please come and share on behalf of the family. The quote reads as such: "Those we love never truly leave us. There are things that death can't even touch." BT, if you can please join us.
Good morning. Pastor took my words, but I think he has greeted for me in all the languages, mostly. I thought I was going to do the same. He has done that already. Being here on behalf of the family, I need to do exactly that. Let me first, just a little synopsis of who my little sister. I'm not going to say was, I'm going to say is. It's amazing. When you are the last person to talk, you just don't know what to go and talk, because what you thought you were going to say, you find that it has already been said. Doreen, I used to call her like that. In our African way, she's my sister. But in non-African languages, she will be called a cousin, and in our case, a cousin. She's my sister. And she was the third in the family of 3 siblings. And there were 3. That goes without any accompaniment of any word whatsoever, that she was the last one. I didn't interact so much with her because she was a person with little words, but giant deeds. This, I think, can be supported by when I went to home after having heard of this. Her aunt said to me and my wife exactly what she said. She said, "Ntate wa ka mo lapeng le o re siile." She repeated that, meaning the father to this family has left us. I couldn't expect more. I understood her fully why she said that. According to my little observation on my sister, she was insistent in the right way. She would not yield when she considers doing what is right. And I think that was accompanied by what she has achieved. We are the Monakises. We drifted from the north way back remember, our history is not written. It's passed from generation to generation through the word of mouth, with the result that some things fall off through the fingers as years went by. Some people would say, you are so many, the Monakise ones. You are so many. I don't see it that way. Allow me to equate ourselves with what I would call endangered species. I think we are so few that if one goes, it's one too many. My sister here, we were all watching her with peeled eyes, and because I could see it, she's up to greater things. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not the size that does the work, it is the engine in the cranium, which we call the brain. That's where the intelligence of a person lies. This was my sister. Sometimes, or most of the times, we think we learn from the gurus, the big guns in life. Every country has got its own big guns and small ones. Everywhere in the whole world, that's the pattern of humanity. But I have realized it's not true that you only learn from big guns. I learned from this young lady here. Insistence. When you know you're doing right. And respect. And little words. But I think she knew when to use less words and when to use words in abundance. Amazingly, she was speaking at the funeral of my uncle. But I feel when I say uncle, I'm not saying it correctly. Rangwani, her father. Little did we know that day. It's about a week or 2 weeks. Little did we know she was bidding us goodbye. We didn't even see a hand waving, as is always the case with human beings. Only after she has departed we realized she bidded us farewell. I leave you with my trails, which no one would be able to erase. She was a friend to her father. It's amazing. Her father is the last born when we count only males. I'm not trying to be discriminatory here. I'm talking about males for this time. Her father was the fourth one, the last one. And miraculously, the last one fell in love with the last one. They were like that. But where it pains me is really that she was the last one and he was the last one. When the last one, who was her father, or who he is her father, parted, she must also part. But that's exactly what happened. Ka Sesotho re re, kgomo ga e ntshe boloko ka moka. There's no word in English or other languages that will have a direct translation to that, but I would attempt. Go tlhaba tlou ka diloka. Ke re, a cow does not get rid of all its dung as it does that process, the natural one. Ngwana kwa rena ba Monakise mathula chipi sete olo batho ba mmaledi mo letsoga buka ke batho ba ba tswang manyelang thabana tha sa kumela Monakise ba re thabang ka bedi ete tswa ke be tla tja suduku ke tshapele ka tja monye tshwala latela. It's us. Moro wele rena dithaga ra lla bošogoshogo.
When Uncle Peter said Didi was destined for greatness, it hit me so hard. I'm trying my best to keep it together, but my friend, Didi did the most, especially this year. It's almost as if she knew her way, thinking I have to do everything that I was destined to do. It's almost as if she felt it. I don't know how to put it, but she really did the most, and she put herself out there. Her friends are going to tell us more about what she did for us and what she did for herself as well on this earth. I'd just like to say, when the speakers come to the podium, can we please just all wear our masks when we're coming? And also when we leave, can we also wear them and also sanitize just to observe the COVID-19 protocols? I would like to call upon Kaya, the best friend, who is going to tell us more about the adventures. Thank you.
Where does one even begin to speak about one's best mate in the past tense? Njani, how does that happen? How is it that I stand here today and speak about how great, loving, generous, fearless and crazy my friend was? I won't speak a lot about the crazy parts, so those adventures I'll leave out. The weirdest part of it all is that in my mind, I know why we're here, but my soul, my spirit and my heart have not quite registered that yet. Throughout the entire process of planning this memorial, I kept on wanting to call her and run a few things past her. And even now, when we're done, I'm more than sure I'm going to want to call her and be like, yo, Bani, we just had a memorial service, Ngawe, in your name. Where were you? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. An unbelievable morning it is. Greetings to all of you who are present here, and those of you who are at the other memorial venues, 86 and Gibbs, and to all of you who are tuned in from around the world on Dr. Doreen Dieketseng Monakise Memorial Channel. Ndicela ukubulisa wonke umuntu olapha namhlanje. And a special greeting to the Monakise family and Motweneng families. A tough few days it has been for you and for many of us. And even tougher for me to witness how you were hurting over your daughter, especially when the wounds had not healed after Daddy had passed away just less than 2 months ago. Zikala Nani Mama, Zikala Nani Charlotte, Portia, and the rest of the family. My name is Khaya Linda, and Dilahlekelwe Ichomi Amengul. My bed is not good, but I'm sure at the end of Ichomi Amengul I should be saying good. Dieketseng was my best mate who got upgraded to family status a very long time ago. And Utandio Vakule Kaya, my mama, my sister, my friends. However, having a girl as your best friend comes with a bit of challenges as well, because my girlfriends were always threatened. That was always my terms and conditions. You're going to have to deal with this one lady who has access to me 24/7 and who doesn't happen to be my direct sister. And Truth Bob, she used that access very, very, very to her advantage, which got me into trouble more often than not, because she was allowed to call after 9 p.m. And imagine you're someone who gets called by name, and then you have this friend who's allowed to call after 9 p.m. and is called Bunny. So that brought a lot of challenges in my life. I remember when Dieketseng stayed with Steph. You will see a video from Steph after I speak. She's all the way in Switzerland, so she did a pre-record. I call her life partner. Those of you who've got the program will see life partner. I call her the life partner because they did life together. They did vets together, they did medicine, they did internship, they just did their lives together and they traveled together. They stayed in Maritzburg during the internship, and my then girlfriend and I were going to Kokstad for a wedding. So we decided to make a bit of a holiday, road trip. So we decided to stop over in Maritzburg and then in Durban. So we stopped over at Dieketseng's in Maritzburg for the night, and we got there quite late and they were already out in groove, so we joined them with immediate effect. Now my girlfriend knew Dieketseng quite well over the phone. They'd never met, but they were very fond of each other. So my girlfriend was looking forward to meeting Dieketseng, very excited. We get inside this venue where Dieketseng and Steph were waiting for us. Dieketseng was wearing this red, tight, sort of body-hugging dress, and she was looking gorgeous, and she was full of personality. And I looked at my girlfriend's smile disappear, and the excitement disappears. And then she then made an excuse for us to go to the car. By the time we get to the car, she looks at me and she says, "Why didn't you tell me your friend was hot?" How do I even begin to answer that? Dieketseng broke so many stereotypes. She was unorthodox. She was a tree-hugging, camping doctor with a love for the open road and the outdoors. She nearly put the nurses in PE at Livingston Hospital into cardiac arrest when she rocked up there on day one with the nose ring and these angel wings tattooed all over her back. Dieketseng looks like a 12-year-old, yet she was 33, turning 34 in November, 10 days after I turned 35. She had achieved way above her years. A full-time doctor who still had time to complete her MBA, start up her company AfriZen, create content for her page docd.com, have a TV show on SABC2 called Health 2020, travel, be a friend, a sister, a colleague, all in one. That's a lot. I mean, that is like superwoman stuff. The lighter side of this all is that Dieketseng, who is known by different names to different people, Doreen, Dee, Dor, Riri, Didi. Hey, you see, this week I've heard it all, and I was like, oh, by now, man, so many of these names. The two of us, however, called each other Bunny. I'm not sure where that name came from, but I'm sure she brought it up. She always saw herself as a loner who didn't have many friends and said, "Oh, Bunny, you're the one who's many friends. I don't have many friends." But I'm sure she's looking from above today in disbelief that everyone here is here for her today. The whole world came to a standstill when she passed away. My phone has never rung so much in my life. So many messages from so many people across all walks of life. As we know her, her personality was infectious. So just an hour with her and you were hooked. She saw herself as awkward, clumsy and ditzy at times. Clumsy she was, that I'll admit. God, but so many people thought she was the coolest kid on the block. She had her own unique style that just made her stand out. You guys should have seen her the last day I saw her, last week Saturday. She'd just come back from shooting an episode. She had her face beat on, she was all swagged up and she was looking the part. And that's the image I'd like to keep in my mind as I think of her. She was also very humble. So humble that she underplayed her success and achievements. Yet she had done so much. But again, unfortunately for her, she had a friend like me who would make sure that nobody was saved from knowing that Dieketseng is this, Dieketseng is that, Dieketseng is this. Because I was very proud of my friend. As awkward as she thought she was full of confidence. She actually oozed confidence. And was fearless. She had a fearless tiny body with the heart of a lion. This fearless, I'm from Mapetla, my brothers, my dad's attitude nearly got us into a lot of trouble. We once got ourselves in a very sticky situation in Durban the one time because of Benenkani as per usual, and she was fearless. And there were these ugly looking Zulu guys who were threatening us, and she was standing there like, yeah, nah. And I'm like, yeah, Nomazana Ninyombedi, who said take Winnie up? These Zulus will make us disappear. A soft, kind, hearted friend my friend was. Very funny, smart, witty, and also very blonde at times. She loved deep, meaningful conversations and meeting new people. Just last week, we were at RTBS. She said she felt tired from work and everything else that she was doing. So she took the day off and went to RTBS for a spa day, and I joined her later on in the evening. When I got there after work in the evening, she was sitting around in a bonfire with strangers she just met, and she was the life of the party. I'm going to miss my friend. I fear for the day when reality hits me, that Nyanyan she's no longer. We spoke every other day, and if we went past 3 days, I know that I'll get a phone call that says, hey Papa, I missed you so much, Bunny. I'm going to miss that. I was so lucky in that I got to say goodbye to my friend. I spent the last week with her. I spent Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with her. I got to hug her and tell her that I love her. And she responded and said, I love you too, Bunny. I was chatting to her on the day of her death, and I think the last communication I had with her was literally maybe 2.5 hours before she passed. Earlier on in the morning, she had called me, and I was half asleep, and I just said whatever I needed to say to her, and I went back to sleep. Little did I know that was the last time I'd hear her voice. I wouldn't wish the phone call that Charlotte gave me on my worst enemy last week Monday, late evening. Late afternoon, early evening. My life came to a standstill, and I was in disbelief. I was like, Charlotte, Utin and Gova, man. What are you saying to me? It was an impossibility that the staring in my life was no longer and would die halfway through the movie. Does daring normally die right at the end, if ever they ever do die? I never thought of a life without Dieketseng in my journey. Even all of this, all of that is untrue to me right now. As much as I was at the hospital on the Monday evening, it still doesn't sit that my friend is not here. Monday was just a horror movie, to tell you the truth. I don't know when reality will kick in, but I'm not looking forward to that day because I fear what will happen to me. I'd like to thank you, Charlotte, Ma, and the family for allowing me to run with the organization of this memorial and also be given some tasks and duties that would normally be just for the family. Thank you all to those who have sent messages of love, phone calls and gestures of love to me, her family and friends. A super shout out to the organizing committee and all her friends who stood up and came through and offered all their help and support to put all of this together. It's tough standing here. And it's going to be tougher living life without her. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya, for sharing parts of your gift of time with Doreen. Just before we move on to our next speaker, which is Steph. Steph, who is in Switzerland, and as of course Kaya has alluded, is her life partner. We'll be playing a video from her. I'd just also like to share a bit about Doreen as a friend. And it is based on a quote, which I'm going to read. Friendship isn't about who you've known the longest. It's about who walked into your life and said, I am here, and then proved it. And Doreen proved it over and over again. I literally met Doreen on a dance floor. We were dancing to some song I don't even remember. And that's how she danced her way into my life. And years later, this is where we are. I share a similar blessing to Ukaya, that I got to see her in all her glory on Saturday after her shoot, all in black, looking absolutely beautiful. I remember when I walked in to where we were and thinking, you have such a glow. Little did I know that the angels were circling around her. And now we're going to set up to receive the message from Stephanie from Switzerland.
Yeah, I'm just testing quickly. Sorry guys, I'm just testing this quickly.
Thank you too.
Working. You can tell it. Give me a second. Oh, this side.
Hello, my name is Stephanie. All the and the extended family for allowing me to speak. I am one of Doreen's friends. I met her in second year of medical school. She was an individual. When I met her, she had long dreadlocks, that beautiful little face of hers, big smile. She was a bit of a loner, which was kind of very much what I am. And we spoke. We had similar interests in music, art, life, and we totally hit it off immediately. We spent a lot of time together, and it just got better and better. Medical school was difficult for both of us. She had her own struggles, I had mine, but she was always very inspiring, very aspirational, very creative. We had a lot of fun in different places, going to see music, live music. Sitting in the terrace in the house in Brixton, I have great memories of that. And with Nubia. And then after medical school, I went to Pietermaritzburg to start my internship, and I was so happy when Doreen joined me there. We spent 1.5 years together, finally finding a really beautiful house in Clarendon in one of the suburbs of Pietermaritzburg to stay in together, and that year was really, really cool, really, really fun, really free, really joyful, really indulging, and peaceful as well at the same time, exciting. Again, lots of music, lots of journeying, and just the two of us enjoying our time together. It got better again, and we didn't see each other that much after that, but every time we would see each other, we would have a good time. She is one of the best people I've known, and I am very hurt, as are all of you, that she is no longer with us. And I'm really angry that this happened, because I was so excited for the next journey for her. Finally, after all her years of hustling and trying and pushing, she achieved so much, and she was getting to where she wanted to be. And now this has happened, and I hope that she is somewhere better, because I think the world is definitely less bright without her, and I will miss her terribly. My heart hurts, and I can't think what her family is going through now, and I'm sorry to all of you, and I wish you well. I love you, Doreen, and I know you know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. From all the way in Switzerland, we definitely share your sentiments that the world is less bright without Doreen. I'd like to call upon one of the members of the Marauders, Maisha, who is going to tell us more about their adventures there as well. Is Maisha here today? I haven't seen her. Is she here? Okay. Maybe we can move on to the next segment while we figure out where she is. Can we please call one of the colleagues, or two colleagues actually, Senzi and Chileshe? Are they not here? Oh, okay.
I greet you all in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, this morning. Amen. It's amazing how, like, the life they live, their actions, is what everyone describes at the end of their life. I mean, everything has been echoed so many times that I feel like I don't have no words to add on to what has been said. Doreen was more than a colleague to me. At the time when I arrived in Johannesburg about 5 years ago, she's one of the first people that I met that eased me into the lifestyle of living in Joburg, into the career options and everything that's available to us. She was such an inspiration. Although being a little bit younger than me, she aspired for so much more in her life, you know. She just took everything to the next level. She was like young black woman that you just like strive for every single thing. She was a perfectionist in the field. And for not knowing what I would say when it came to this. I just took one of her patients that wrote a note for us in the past week that I'll just read to you. Okay. Dr. Monakise was one in a many of doctors that had come across in the public field. I had brought my son to Baragwanath Hospital, and coming across her vibrant, her empathetic, her loving nature, she took her time and she explained everything to us as a family and as an individual, and eased us into the understanding of what was going on with my dear son. Our son never later left us, but I remember her. There may be many doctors, but there are a few that are like her. I think the world is at a loss. I feel doctors are at a loss for having lost her. Sithi kuye kumamakhe, Dudu. May her soul rest in peace. And this is just from one of the patients that she came across. In the 5 years that I've known her, as I say, like, she's been more than just a colleague. She's been that friend. To even say what Uchu said earlier on is that even when you heard this news, I still felt like I should be calling Doreen. It's something that I feel like one of those where you drive back from work and you've had a hard day and you speak to her for 3 hours on the phone, and she always made the time. As small as she was and as busy as she was, she took the time out. At times, she just pitched at my front door, and you'd wonder how she got through security. She's at my door when I need her at the most. So she was a dynamite. She was truly, truly a dynamite. She did in 3 decades what others take a lifetime to achieve, especially in the last couple of months. She was truly something, and I feel like it was a gift for me to be part of her life. It's just unfortunate that as humans, as much as all of us have a good story to tell, sometimes it's through tragedies like this, my friend, that we learn our hardest lessons. We learn that, like, what every moment means. Now I'm longing for those times, the dinners that I didn't make, the dream sessions that I didn't make, the photos I didn't take. But I think those memories will still carry me for as long as I live. My Lala, my friend, undothusile. Ndide ndizive ndithi uThixo uthathe ithemba lam ngengcambu zawo. I've been uprooted, my hope, my friend. But I think what would be a worse tragedy is if, with all that she's aspired to, with all that she's achieved, is to not take it further, take her legacy further. That would be the ultimate tragedy. And uThixo, mama, umoya wakhe angawususi kuthi. Awedwanga. You have gained all of us. We are now your sons and daughters, mama. Silapha for wena at any time, just like you would have wanted. Ndiyabulela ngobomi bakhe ebomini bethu. Nkosi.
I'd like to greet everybody in the procession today. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the Monakise family, Mama, Sis Wam, Sis Charlotte, friends, old friends of Doreen's, new friends, those unknown to me, childhood friends, varsity friends, friends from her newer walks of life, her colleagues from the medical fraternity, the Wits Medical School class of 2011 that I too represent, Gibbs Business School, SABC, Afrizan team, the YouTube, my friend Kaya, who was great friends with Doreen and has assisted to make this all possible for us to come and celebrate such a great person that we've lost. My name is Uchileshe. Udi used to call me Chili, as many of my friends. Before I continue, I also want to acknowledge the presence of the spirit of Tataga Doreen, her father who left us not so long ago and is looking down on us now and smiling at how we honor his daughter. I want to acknowledge the presence of her brother, her late brother as well. And most importantly, I want to acknowledge the presence of Doreen. Ukona up. I feel her, and Udi is here. I didn't know if I was going to speak actually when I heard the news, and I thought about it and I thought to myself, what would Doreen say if I asked her? In fact, we had spoken about it many years ago, cracking jokes. And I always used to say to her that she'll probably speak at my funeral because men's life expectancies are way lower than women in South Africa. And I know that if I had asked her, would you want me to speak, she would have said to me in her voice, yeah, brah. Of course, speak, as long as you're going to say something nice. Just like Doreen used to say to me, and I would have said to her, Dee, you know how I am. I just tell it as it is. And I'm going to tell it as it is. My first memory of meeting Dor, and we're all very sad. Siakala. I'm going to try and channel a positive energy, which is what she would have wanted me to do. She was always positive with me. I was a broken person when she met me. And she ushered such positivity into my life that we became great friends. My first earliest memory of Doreen was in the early 2000s at Wits Med's main campus, where I didn't even know her. In fact, I didn't even speak to her or greet her. I just saw a young lady walking past me. She had long dreads and was wearing these very big baggy pants. Doreen's fashion sense was eccentric. Huge baggy pants. And I remember thinking to myself, who's this hippie now, you know? And little did I know that years later, this person and I would grow so close. We then became closer during medical school. Throughout that time, we hung around the same social circles. We listened to similar music. We had a lot in common. And in the last 2 years, we dated in med school. And then we parted ways just before internship when she went off to Pietermaritzburg and I stayed in Johannesburg to do my internship. Life happened and we grew out of touch, but life kept bringing us back together. At a common friend's wedding, we met again, rehashed, and we spoke about life. We always would philosophize about life. We would keep in touch via SMS, even if months would go by, just to check if we were both doing okay. And little did I know that one day coincidence would highlight the fact that this person is destined to be a part of my life. Doreen back in the day used to drive a little C2, a Citroen. Yeah. And I used to make fun of her because as much as Kaya just said now about Doreen was clumsy, if you know Doreen, you know her clumsiness. I used to always tell her, put a clumsy person behind the wheel. She was not a bad driver. She would drive quite fast, but in my potholes, she would just eat potholes all the time. And to the point whereby I didn't have a car back then in med school. She would give me lifts home all the time. And she would chow the pothole, and I just look at her. And again, she would just look at me and start laughing with that little laugh of hers. That's how This bad driver, a few months ago, I hadn't spoken to her in maybe a year or so. I'm driving on the way to work to Barra. Driving my car, normally trying to keep to the speed limit, although I'm on the tip, and this black thing comes behind me. What? Overtakes me. And I'm thinking, who's this now? Why did they overtake me like that? Hey, I change lanes and I go forward to go and complain. Road rage is not good. I shouldn't have done it, but I did anyway. I wanted to see who's this person who's driving like this. And after not speaking to Doreen for such a long time, I looked. I hoot, she reduces her window, and I say, where did you learn how to drive when? She said nothing, she just started laughing. Bruh, I'm late. And then she moved. And then she phoned me, we spoke, she told me that she's doing locums in Soweto. We then caught up. Over the past couple of months, we've been talking a lot. She helped my younger brother complete his MBA. She visited us not so long ago, a month at the house. And really, the one thing I've gotten from it is the fact that a life such as this one is bigger than whether the physical form is alive or dead. Doreen's life echoes, which is why I say she's here. A lot of us have been touched by Doreen. And a lot of us, because of being touched by Doreen, will continue to touch other people. I never would have dreamt that I would have been the person I am today. And if you speak to some people really look at me and they say that I'm quite a person who helps other people. But I learned these things somewhere. I learned them from my parents who are late. I learned them from people like Doreen. And Doreen has taught me a lot. I am going to be cognizant of time, and I'm just going to run through a few things that I learned from this young lady. The first lesson I learned from Doreen is to love. Doreen loved all, regardless of gender, race, creed, class. She taught me how to look past anything and just love unconditionally. And the amazing thing with that is that she did it by choice. So what we need to take from that is we can choose to love. We can choose to love. Doreen taught me to be true to myself always, to be non-judgmental of others, and to live life to the full. It's been said many times here that she was a go-getter. Doreen liked things. She believed in herself. The second thing she taught me was to relax in life. A lot of us are highly strung. This one day I remember we were chilling at the back in Melville, and Doreen and I were not very good friends at that point in time. But we were in the same class and we knew each other from class. And I was sitting. Udo comes behind me, and we used to laugh about this story. And as I'm just sitting, she just strokes my ear. Like that. Someone who I don't hang around, she just stroked my ear. I turned around and I'm thinking to myself, Haibo, what's this person doing? And as I started feeling like, hey, I'm shout along, I saw this naughty smile on her face, and I just laughed and said, what's that about? And she said, my friend dared me to come and do that to you because you're so highly strung. I laughed. It was a story we said forever. The third thing is, when you're clumsy in life, know to pick yourself up. Be prepared to fall and pick yourself up. And don't dwell on falling in life. This clumsy girl we know liked living large. She bought this motorbike. She used to ride a little Vespa. I used to ride a motorbike. I had eventually saved up, I bought a motorbike, and I then used to ride, and she wanted to upgrade to a bike from her little Vespa, and she told me she's going shopping for a bike, asked me to come along. We went shopping, looked for a bike. She saw this very big cruiser from Big Boy Scooters, and she said, I want that one. I said, D, that thing's huge. Do you see how big you are? That thing is huge. Can you even hold that thing? She said, no, I want this one. She bought it. It had tassels, it was big, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this video that I'm talking about onto Dee's site. I've got it now, upload it for you guys to have a look at. But when she bought it, she was not even that good at riding, so I had to drive it back for her. and we drove it to Wits. And at Wits, there was an empty parking lot, and we taught her. She was just practicing how to ride. After a while, she seemed fine, so she took it home. A week later, she said she's riding without a problem. But it is at this point in time, when I thought that everything is smooth, that we went to a garage station. And Doreen is clumsy, but we went to the garage station. She was fine, riding without a problem. She stops, gets off the bike. Now the petrol attendants are looking, hey, who's this hot young girl, riding such a big bike? It had these tassels. Doreen comes off. Looking good. She forgets to put the bike stop up. Hey, toos. The bike drops. I look, the whole petrol station stops. We look at the bike. Then Doreen, trying to pick up the bike, falls on top of the bike now. I looked there and I thought to myself, did she get injured? I was so worried at the beginning. Everyone was quiet. I looked at her. She stops. She looks at me. She starts laughing. She starts laughing. I say to her, Then the petrol attendants start laughing. Before you know it, everyone's laughing. We pick up the bike. She says to me, Chili, bruh, you shouldn't care so much about these things. I'm embarrassed, but hey, we're having a good time. This was the D I knew. 2 more lessons, and I'll be quick. Number 1, mend things while you still can with family and friends. Mend things while we still can. This is a lesson. Good song. I am grateful that having known Dor for so long, it could have gone either way. I could have been sitting here not having spoken to Doreen for the last 5-10 years and just heard about, hey, who's Shilu Dor? But we were not like that. She had taught us to not be like that. We have always been in a good space, and in the last year or so, we became in a very good space. And I am grateful for that. Dee, 2-3 weeks ago, told me she loved me. I told her I love her back. I'm happy I got the chance to do that. I am really happy. But we should take that lesson, because as much as we can sit here and remember this woman's great life, we all have people that we need to mend things with. And they could go tomorrow. They could go today. So in this lesson of losing D, mend things with family and friends. It is unnecessary to bear grudges. The last lesson I want to leave you with that I've taken from Doreen was remain humble, remain grateful, and give thanks. As much as Doreen was a rising star, Doreen remained humble all the time. The last 2 words that Doreen ever said to me were not on a phone call, were on a message that I keep looking at every day, and it's the words thank you. A few weeks back, she just sent me a message. We were talking, and then at the end, she just sent me a message saying thank you. A closing word to the family. You guys raised a beautiful human being. That cannot come from nothing. You guys are beautiful human beings. Doreen represented the family. And what you are seeing here is a result of your hard work and your love. In losing an earthly daughter, you're gaining sons, you're gaining friends, you're gaining daughters, you're gaining sisters. Everybody that's showing you love, this love is coming from a genuine place. A genuine place. A word to everybody else. Your actions in life are always a choice. Choose to uplift and support each other. Sibambisanan. Sibaxwaya abanye who are struggling and are downtrodden, like this lady did. Let's support Dee's family now and always. Not just now in this week and then we disappear. Let's support and truly support, because a life that has touched your life continues to touch your life as long as you breathe a breath. In the name of our beloved Doreen Dieketseng Monakise, let's live life to the full. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chileshe, for that and reminding us of Dee's humility. You know what's funny for me? All of us are speaking here. Doreen was a doctor. And most often than not, when people are doctors, they want to be referred to as Dr. So-and-so. But the way she was so humble, she would never introduce herself as this doctor or whatever the case may be. It's Dee. And that for me is everything. And that's why she was such a great example for all of us to be humble. No matter who you are, where you come from, always remain grounded. And that's who Dee was. I would like to call upon one of her friends, Jabulile, from St. Andrews. Jabulile, are you here? Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I had the privilege of meeting Dee in 2003 when we started our St. Andrews journey. And not in a million years did I think I would ever be bidding farewell to her at the tender age of 33. My friend, you were always a pro at pulling a fast one, and your departure was no different. You were the crazy girl that mastered that handbrake turn on Kingsways Road. That same girl that would get a thrill from reverse drag racing my brother on the rooftop of the Glen. Indulge me as I take you back to high school and reminisce about our Dee. Dee was a firecracker. She was that girl that made things happen and made sure she finished anything that she started. I remember distinctly when we were in Form 3 in chemistry class, listening to a presentation by Professor David Kletzo. And at that very moment was when Dee knew in her heart of hearts that medicine was her true calling. Many of us then had the privilege to watch Dee over the years as she diligently worked to realize her dream. Giving up was never an option for our Dee. When we did manage to steal her away from the books, Dee was the life of the party. She really was. I've heard everyone say it, and that's just who she was. It was impossible to keep a straight face when Dee was in the room. She would have us doing crazy walkthroughs through a McDonald's drive-through or taking on crazy adrenaline adventures. She had an undeniable love for people from all walks of life. And it has shown in the outpouring of love we have received from anyone that was fortunate enough to cross paths with her. This is still the biggest shock to us all, and many mutual friends have been reaching out and expressing their heartfelt condolences. And at the end of each conversation, each and every one of them has expressed in their own words that Dee has shown us all that the lesson here is to live a thorough life, to take risks, to conquer mountains, to be happy, and to fiercely chase after our dreams in the same way that she did. I just wish that this lesson didn't come at such high a price. But I guess your wings were ready, even though our hearts were not. My dear friend, rest now, for you have run a good race, and the memories we made together will forever be carved in our hearts. To Mama, thank you so much for raising the powerhouse that Doreen was. To Sha, Portia, and the rest of the family and her friends. Sonke silahlekile. Silahlekelwe, sikhala sonke. Robala ka khotso, Motshwetla. Moana, Mosila wa Pudi.
Thank you, Jabulile rather, for that sharing. So, as everybody and most people keep on repeating about Doreen, is once she set her eyes and sights on something, she was not going to give up. She was not going to give up. And she was very gifted. And this brings me to her journey as an entrepreneur. And I found this quote about it, and I think she lived it till the very end. I am a doer, a dreamer, a thinker. I see possibilities everywhere. And that was Doreen. She saw possibilities everywhere. And she journeyed long and hard, and towards the end, it was all falling into place. During this week, I've been asking myself what God is trying to show us in it ending this way. And I think for me, my takeaway was God is showing us that He is God. And He doesn't need days, months, weeks, or years. When it is His time, it will happen like this. Doreen worked very hard for many years. She felt she needed to give up sometimes. She got tired. You know, we'd have conversations. Is this still the right thing to do? She should leave it. She just focus on the one thing. And in the space of a couple of months, and not just any months, months of a very trying year, that is 2020, everything just fell into place for Udi. With that, I'd like to call on Usjatu, who journeyed the entrepreneurship journey with Doreen, to please come through and share with us more about Doreen as an entrepreneur.
Good morning, everybody. Molweni, dumelang. You know, sitting at the back there, processing what it is that's going to be said when you get up here is very, very different to when you actually stand here. Because the moment of the colossal moment that you're in resonates when you're standing at the podium. My name is Sajad Mzozoyana. I'm a friend of Dee's. I represent my business, Relative Media. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the business. And I've had an interesting journey with Dee, specifically in the past few months. I found her to be tenacious. She's a tenacious, hardworking, driven, bold, young, female, black entrepreneur. And it was such a privilege to watch her grow. I'm going to share a light story that I had with Dee last Thursday before she passed. She contacted me and said, CJ, where are you? I proclaimed to her that I'm home. What's up? She says, let's catch up. She says, you're busy. I'm busy. We never have time to catch up. And I want to tell you about my dreams. And I want to hear about yours. The offer was too good to be true. So, because I know that every conversation that I had with Dee was always captivating. So I simply had to go ahead. She had left some items at the hospital where she works. So instead of us having dinner, we got into my car and we drove to a hospital to go fetch her items. And as time we have it, she says, no, I'm not going to cook. We're going to go through the drive-thru at KFC, and that's going to be dinner. Then I said, okay, Dee, let's do that. And as we're driving, she's talking to me about how Relative Media is lighting up the Johannesburg skyline. To my surprise, she was pointing out buildings we'd wrapped and things that we've done in Joburg. And she says to me, I've done my homework, I'm prepared. That was Dee. She was always one step ahead. When it came to her work, Dee was always prepared. We drove into the KFC. I remember she ordered a chicken wrap and she refused to buy Stony because she said it's not good for her. And she watched me frizzle down some cream soda. And then she said to me, CJ, I eat, you know. I probably eat more than you do. I said, Dee, that's not possible. You weigh as much as my arm. And she laughed. She said, don't underestimate skinny people. I'm a bigger eater than you are, you know? That was Dee. And then she went on with her laugh that we all know. Like, yeah. And what was entertaining is that we made a song on the road. We're in the KFC drive-thru, and the lady that's serving us, the bill came up to 166 rand. And the lady that's telling us how much we must pay says to us, 166. And then Dee says, pardon? And the lady repeats, 166. And she says, Andiva, 166. Now we start going, 166, pardon? And humorously, the lady that's serving us joins us in on the song. She now likes the beat, 166, and we keep going. So that was such an entertaining moment, but it speaks to Dee. She could make people laugh, and her laugh was contagious. She didn't even know the lady that was serving us the food. But she joined in the fun, you know? And I'm going to miss those moments. We're all mourning the passing of a powerful, tenacious, talented young lady. Talented young sister, cousin, nephew and friend. I don't know what our spiritual beliefs are, but the Dee that I know is here. She's here listening to us. Portia, Charlotte, Mama, you've walked an incredible journey in the past few months. Stay strong. Friends and colleagues, this is not easy. Nobody plans for a pillar like Dee to pass. We don't think about death at our age. Not at her age. She was in good health, and she had so much to gain. I stand weakened here, because a giant tree has fallen, as Charlotte has said. When a giant tree falls, the entire environment changes. It's noticeable. There's a gaping hole. Something significant is missing. And that's Dee. But the Lord is our shepherd. We shall not want. His rod and his staff, they comfort us even in this moment. Let us not fear. Dee smiled, let's smile with her. I met Dee a few years ago with Kaya at a restaurant in Four Ways. He's a mutual friend of ours. And I knew that when he was connecting us, he knew that something would come of it. Bongo, thank you for that, because my life has been enriched because of the woman that I met. We had many conversations, Dee and I. Chief among them were her spiritual beliefs, her understanding of her medical field, her unpacking of traditional healing. But I'm not going to speak about that today. I've been asked to speak about her career journey, as far as she communicated it to me. When I met Dee, she was studying, she was focused primarily on being a doctor. While we were speaking, I spoke to her about the benefits of diversification. We had a long and lengthy debate about that. We were speaking about the benefits of diversification in terms of her investments and the path that she wants to take. And she was querying whether or not she should have a streamlined focus to her business as being a doctor, or whether there's an opportunity for her to diversify in the interest of long-term benefit. The debate was robust. It went on for hours. But in the end, we decided that she's going to go and diversify, and that she wasn't going to lose sight of the main thing, which is her medical profession. And what we discussed is that there's a world that exists where she can merge the two worlds simultaneously. It just needed to be created. Dee told me at the time about a few business interests that she had. She spoke to me about a traveling business, which was her passion. She spoke to me about a YouTube channel that she wanted to start at the time. And that YouTube channel was meant to educate people on matters relating to medicine. And she wanted to do it in a fun way that brought people closer to understanding of what medical profession can bring to them. She also spoke about medical scrubs business as well. Dee is contagious. She's bold. She's beautiful. She's incredibly well educated. She's easily appreciated because she listens. And that connects her to people. I remember us sitting in her apartment and she was writing these things down, her attributes. And she took a decision to create content at that point in time. To create content that would connect with a young audience. An audience not educated in medicine. If I fast forward a few years, in fact, she called me a couple of months ago after she'd posted a video. She posted a video where she was in hospital. I think it was Baragwanath Hospital, but I stand to be corrected. Where she was treating COVID patients and that she was in the emergency ward. And in her video, she spoke about a controversial position she found herself in, where patients were coming into the ward without coronavirus symptoms and they were leaving fully infected because of the lack of protective equipment in the environment. And then she emphasized the fact that people were dying on the video. I said, Dee, okay, so you put out a video. People put out videos over the time. She said, no, but this video has now gone viral. And I said, Dee, what do you mean it's gone viral? She said, there's hundreds and thousands of people that are watching this video. I said, Dee, show me. And I think there were 400,000 views at that point in time. And I said, Dee, well, here's your moment then. You're looking for content creation and you're looking for a space to make an impact. The opportunity that you're building for is now. This lady was dynamic. And she was bold. And she always spoke the truth. Even when I came with shenanigans, set me straight. She'd tell it like it is. She was bold. Because at that point in time, it was very difficult for doctors to raise controversial views on coronavirus publicly. She told me about her fear because of people communicating to her on her phone, other stakeholders and so forth. I advised her to stick to her guns, because nothing she said was untrue. Her business, drdee.com, was an African gem before its time. She spoke to me about a vision of building this blog and this content in a fun way that would ignite the youth. It would involve online consultations and education using technology. And in this way, it would cut out the need for people to go into hospitals for small infections and so forth. This is revolutionary thinking in an SA context. Because what we've come to know is that access to medical health care is preserved generally in South Africa for a select few, a select privileged few. And what Dee was looking to do was to provide a platform for people to engage and be diagnosed by professionals on her platform at a significantly reduced cost to ordinary South Africans. That is the journey that she was looking to build as per my communications with her. Dee applied to Relative Media's Small Business Relief Program. To my surprise, I saw her name there, and she was a successful candidate. Our business gave her 800,000 rands in value, where she had her brand across our digital screens in Gauteng. It gave her the visibility that she needed, because she was communicating with me regularly about how that platform had catapulted her profile, and that people from all walks of life were now reaching out to her for advice and so forth. Her website views were up, and she was getting contacted daily. Here's an excerpt of what she wrote as a motivation. I went to go and find it in our archives yesterday. Dr. D. and I quote, this is her writing, not my words. DocD.com is a unique online medical show that provides preventative healthcare content, outside of the regular health matters such as COVID-19 updates, management of lifestyle diseases, dietary advice, fitness regime, sexual and mental health matters. The show discusses everything that is excitingly fresh, from common health scares, exploring alternative ways of healing, new technologies in health, and ways of overcoming social ills. We do health. #health. The program is presented by a young, black, unorthodox medical doctor. The idea is to break this typical stereotype of what health should look like. Therefore, we aim to make the medical profession fun and entertaining while creating awareness on various health issues, attracting more young people to the profession and giving the much-needed stress relief to doctors themselves through subtle, well-crafted, and satirical segments. The world has been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, and health has become topical. The working world as we know it has been disrupted and forced to change literally overnight. I am a part of that change. Digital and social media platforms have flourished and form as the primary platforms for businesses to engage. What better way than to provide a health content platform that is relevant for the current time in both style, presentation, and the means of exhibition? This is just the first step. The next is coming. Those are her words. End quote. Dee would then apply to host a show on SABC2 called Health 2020. The discussions we had about giving life to her strengths were now coming to fruition. The Sunday before her passing, we spoke about how she ought to put in a slant on that show, how she ought to bring her own personality into that show as to attract the younger audience. We spoke about how the platform can be used to build her personal brand. In fact, we set out a mind map of how we could use our network and access points as leverage in order to maximize the return of her work. That was on Sunday. We discussed the next step she needed to embark on in her plans, and unfortunately, the next message I received was from her sister, who informed me of her passing. As diminutive as Dee may have been in stature, she was colossal in her outlook. She really understood that the access to quality healthcare needs to be distributed to all. And she was really excited about making sure that people outside the mainstream were able to get that healthcare. Her vision was to leverage her position in order to reach out to all that needed care. And she wanted to do it in a cost-effective way. I hope sincerely that there are doctors in this audience who can take this baton from here, because Dee has set up an unbelievable base from which to work off. A giant tree has fallen here, and everything is different as a result. Rest in peace, my friend.
Thank you, Strat. To those who are joining us online, we do seem to be running a bit over, and the broadcast could cut in just a few minutes, so just about 12:10. So we do apologize in advance. So as we continue, we hope that our next couple of speakers will be able to be short and succinct, so that hopefully we can stay online till the very end and that you don't miss out on Doreen's memorial service. Thank you.
In the interest of time, I'm not going to be summarizing much of what Sejadu has already said. I think he put it so beautifully, what she was doing with her life, and unfortunately it was cut short. I will now be calling upon Esetu and Dumela from Gibbs. Can we just be cognizant of time? Thank you.
Good morning. It's still morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to Dee's family, friends, colleagues, and everybody joining us here this afternoon. My name is Esetu Mangodra, and I'll be representing Dee's MBA cohort or group, colloquially known as the Green Group or the Greenies. This is a group of about 70 people that Dee spent most of 2018 and 19 with. So we may be mafikizolos in Dee's life, but as you can imagine, we spent a ridiculous amount of time together in that 2 years. So I think we might have overtaken a lot of you. Sharing everything from class notes, late nights on campus, syndicate group drama, laughter, last-minute assignment submissions, stress, and did I mention a lot of stress during the MBA. There's nothing like a 12 midnight comfort chat in the hallways of Gibbs the night before an exam to make you feel close to someone, because you really get to see someone at some of their most vulnerable moments. As I was asking the rest of the group to sort of contribute to memories of Dee, because I'm speaking on behalf of all of us, I thought to myself, how many people could Dee have spoken to on that first day of the MBA? I was about to share what I recalled about that day is that Doreen was one of the first people who came to speak to me as we stood around outside the Gibbs auditorium, a group of 30-something-year-olds feeling like they'd just been dropped off by mommy and daddy on the first day of grade 1. I thought that was a special memory between myself and Dee, but it turns out that Dee managed to speak to about 20 other people on the same morning, and they also thought that was a special memory between themselves and Dee. So I wasn't very happy about that. Furthermore, she managed to ease all of our first day of school jitters with her disarming smile, warm personality, and ability to strike a meaningful conversation with just about anyone. Personally, she made me feel like I was not the only one feeling nervous and a bit intimidated by the other MBA candidates. I remember the first day we had to introduce ourselves in class. Dee made it clear that whilst she might have looked about 16 years old, she was she was no pushover. From the time classes started, it was clear that Dee was one of the smartest, sassiest members and outspoken members of the Green Group. I personally remember in Professor Morris Mtombeni's class, one in which I might add, the rest of us kind of slunk down in our chairs, hoping and praying not to be called upon to answer his tough questions. I remember a specific day watching Dee as she engaged with Morris for a good 10 minutes. And Morris was the type of professor where when you thought you'd given your best answer, he would tell you, that's great, but now I want you to take it to the next level. At which point the rest of us kind of looked around for saviors in the class to help Morris take it to the next level. But Dee actually stayed with Morris and went from the next level to the next level to the next level. And I remember thinking, wow, this girl is so intelligent. That was Dee in class. Throughout our MBA, Dee was someone we could speak to on all issues, including mental health, physical health, family, balance, and stress management. She also continued to live by example. CJ, I can believe that Dee didn't buy a Stony on that day because she lived a healthy lifestyle and continued to gym while the rest of us kind of cancelled our gym memberships and resolved ourselves to a sedentary lifestyle and Gibbs's 3-course buffet meals for the next 2 years. Dee lived with purpose and had such clarity of vision. The way she single-mindedly pursued her e-health vision with AfriZen Health Solutions, her Doc D platform, her SABC2 health show, as well as conducting many webinars and virtual speaking engagements on all issues health-related. I specifically had a webinar with Dee on the Wednesday before her passing, and it was something that we had been planning for so long as part of I'm part of the Black Management Forum. And I said to her, Dee, we've been having so many webinars about the economy and COVID-19 and how to recover the economy. And I just feel like as women, we're going through so much under lockdown. We're full-time moms, we're full-time professionals, we have homeschooling, our husbands are in our faces all the time, or boyfriends. And I said to her, I think the issue of how women are coping just from a mental health perspective during COVID-19 has not been spoken about. And so the Wednesday before her passing, she joined me on a webinar. And as usual, Dee was phenomenal. She was prepared, she was crisp, she was relatable, she was relevant. And so many people reached out to me afterwards to say, wow, can we have those two? It was herself and Dr. Clementine, who she'd introduced me to. And everybody wanted us to almost make this a continuous series. And I hadn't yet gotten the chance to ask if Dee could squeeze me into her busy schedule. At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, as those who have shared, she took it upon herself to share her experiences as a frontline health worker, working directly with COVID-19 patients. This helped to educate a lot of us and brought to the fore the seriousness and impact of the pandemic. Doreen often spoke about her parents and her sister. I remember we went on an immersion, cultural immersion, and we went to Springs, and I sat on the bus next to Dee, and all she spoke about was her mom, her sister, and her dad. She loved her dad. And she told me about how, I think her dad owned taxis or was in the taxi business, and she said, that person took me to an elite private school and has produced a doctor and very soon an MBA graduate. So she was so proud of her family. It was very clear that she came from a foundation of love, respect, and strong family values. There's so many things we'll miss about you, Dee. Your kindness, your entrepreneurial passion, your love for life, your overflowing river of friendship. But it's your smile that will stay with us forever, safely secured in our hearts and minds. We love you, Lala, till we meet again.
Thank you, Setu. Oh, the man.
Afternoon to all. I come here out of words. I also met Doreen in 2018 at Gibbs, when this dynamic young lady approached me to say, after I'd given a speech to the new MBAs at Gibbs, that I think you would want to mentor me because I'm about to get famous, and it's your chance to jump on the ship. So when I get there, your name can be featured there. I took her up. As SI2 says, she was very dynamic because we used to plan every lecture with her. We planned the lectures because I did my MBA in 2014. So we planned every lecture. I diagnosed every lecture to her to say, this guy's like this, handle him like this. This lady's like this, handle her like this. And we'd have feedbacks after every class. She killed it every time. And we sat and had monthly lunches to plan her next steps. And it was wow for me to see everything she's written down coming to fruition. The last few months, I've just been sending her WhatsApps on everything that she's achieved to say, we spoke about this, here it is happening. What a wow lady. But today, ma'am, I come beyond just Doreen's friend. Because in the last month, we've shared commonalities that I'll never forget. Doreen said to me, I've got two problems. I'm impatient, and my love for history and dates will always kill me. 23rd of July, I sent Doreen a message of condolences for the passing of her father. My father had just brought my parents from home, both COVID positive. The first person I phoned from Gwadwa was Doreen to say, Dee, I need 2 beds somewhere in Joburg. What do I do? Gwadwa, there's nothing. I'm driving home tomorrow morning to come to Joburg. And he said to me, drive, my friend, drive, we'll find 2 beds. In a province where it was an epicenter, she still guaranteed me that I'd find 2 beds. I brought my parents here. We arrived early morning of the 20th. She told me, with the help of our good friend, Dr. Brenda, to go to Joburg Jail. My mom got in, and my dad had to come home with us to come back on Wednesday. I think the Wednesday her dad passed on, 23rd I think it was, because I remember sending a message on the 23rd. In the midst of that, Dee was concerned about my parents. Well, she just lost her father. And as time went on, I got to learn that my dad took over the bed that her dad was on in Joburg jail. So there it is, the dates, the memory. My dad passed on. But before my dad passed on, Dee was my eyes and ears of my family. Dee called herself my cousin, and that her uncle was on the bed there and would give me daily reports on how my dad was doing. She just lost her father. But her cariness would always be there to check up on me. And I think we had funny WhatsApps where she'd ask me, Papa, how are you? I'd respond. I called her Mama, Mama, how are you? Because we were both sitting in the same loop. Last week, Tuesday, was a month after my dad had passed. So we had a lunch, we called it the MPV lunch, Most Valuable Players Lunch, where we had time to talk about our fathers and how dynamic they were. We happened to have gone to schools with the same names, St. Andrews. I was in Bloemfontein, she was here in Johannesburg. And both our fathers left school at a very early age. My dad started 2, I think your dad was started 3. We spoke about how they've made us who we are today. And every single time we finished lunch, I walk into the car. I open the door for her because I told her that my parents paid too much money for me not to be a gentleman. This time last week, Tuesday, she said, Papa, I'm walking you to your car. My dad paid too much money for me not to be a lady. She opened the door for me at my car, asked me to open my window, and said, Papa, this is the beginning of big things. Monday, when I got a call, I was in disbelief. I tried to call her number again after getting the call to verify. We've not lost a friend, we've lost a dynamic lady. The country has lost. She had bigger plans. We had written down bigger plans. Our next plan was for her to be in the Cyril Ramaphosa steering committee somewhere. And she was there and going for it. So, ma'am, we have lost. The country has lost. We've lost a friend. And I'll leave with dates that I will always remember. And she told me that you will always remember me for the rest of your life when she asked me to mentor me. I'll never forget it. Thank you.
Thank you. As we try to squeeze in our last few speakers while we're still online, please just allow me to share this. I think it was Ujablile who shared this about Doreen, that she could always pull a fast one. And this is one of the last few posts on social media that she put up. And I shared it with Ukaya, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. And I said, wow, I didn't see it coming. She posted this on the 13th of May. And she had visited me in Cape Town earlier this year. And she said, if ever there is a tomorrow when we are not together, there is something you must know and always remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even when we are apart, I will always be with you. That's a quote from Winnie the Pooh that she had dedicated to me. And I only realized it once she had passed. Doreen has taught us love, courage, fearfulness, empathy, love, And I'm going to say it again, love. And with that, I would like to call on Portia to please come forward for the reading of the obituary. And may I ask that everyone present and at home, if you can, if you may please stand up in respect.
Mzoeta. That's how we used to address each other. We called each other Mzoeta. Kitlo mang Mzoeta when you're gone. Doreen Dieketseng Monakise was born at Shiawelo Clinic in Soweto on the 15th of November 1986. She is the daughter of Mr. Johannes Monakise and Stella Mutwening. She attended a primary schooling at Bishop Bevan's Combined School and moved to complete high school at St. Andrew's School for Girls. Doreen qualified as a medical doctor at the University of the Witwatersrand in 2011. She completed an internship at the Pietermaritzburg Hospital Complex, Department of Health, KZN. She later completed her community service at Livingston Hospital in PE. The Department of Health is in Eastern Cape. In the surgery department, she was an experienced clinician in both the private and public health sectors, and at the time of her departure, she was employed at Garden City, Mel Park, and Baragwanath Hospital. She completed a diploma in general management, PGDIP, and an MBA with an A-grade thesis pending publication at the Gordon's Institute of Business Science, and was a Tony Elemelu Foundation and Brightest Young Minds alumni in 2017. As an inspiring entrepreneur in the health sector and a proud founder of African Health Solutions, and more recently, the DocD.com online medical advice platform. For DocD, the world was an oyster. And tip of the iceberg, DocD recently partnered with Microsoft to launch a digital health platform that would be a first of its kind in the country, and without a doubt, transform medical technology in South Africa. Doreen recently joined the SABC team and was invited to co-host a show on health matters called Health 2020 on SABC2, and was also featured in Vota Online. It goes without saying that her patriotism and commitment to serving the people of this country had her at the front line of the battlefield in the fight against COVID-19. Dee is survived by her mother, 2 older sisters, a younger sister, a close cousin, and a nieces and nephews. Robala ka khotso Monakise. Robala ka khotso Motsoeta, moana mosela wa pudi.